views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, we'll update you on the latest in politics news out of Washington, D.C. with Manafort and Cohen. Afterwards, the summer is coming to an end, and it's time to start preparing for school. We're going to tell you about a health checklist and everything you need to know to get your kids ready for class. And after that, it's never too late to start saving money. We're going to tell you about resources and tools helping you to maximize your savings. Then, we'll take you to a community school providing support in addition to academics such as healthcare and other wraparound services dedicated to families right here in our borough. We want you to stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now we're officially open. And hello everyone, I'm your host Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, August 22nd. And you're watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, better known as MNN, as Open is now being broadcast live simultaneously on MNN's channel. We also encourage you to stay connected to us, and how can you do that? Well, you can find out more about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. A lot has certainly been going on throughout the past week. It's time now to get you caught up with some Bronx updates. Well, funeral arrangements have been set for the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. A two-day viewing will be held at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit, Michigan next Tuesday and Wednesday, with a private funeral being held for family and friends on August 31st. Aretha Franklin, whose gospel-rooted singing and bluesy yet expansive delivery earned her the title the Queen of Soul, died on Thursday. She was 76. She was known for her top chart song, Respect, Natural Woman, and Say a Little Prayer, as well as her sassy attitude. Well, in other news, with soaring overdose deaths from a nationwide drug epidemic, no corner of the Bronx is immune. Yet what some critics cast as a radical approach to fighting addiction, proponents say offering drug users safe places to inject illegal narcotics is a forward-thinking, evidence-proven system that could deal a major blow to what state health officials have called an unprecedented opioid crisis. Senator Gustavo Rivera is in favor and says if he has his way, safe injection sites could become a reality right here in the borough. Now, the sites face daunting hurdles, calling for the support of several district attorneys and the state health department, and they also could possibly violate federal law. Now, Senator Rivera hosted a small training session at the Kingswood Heights Community Center last week with 50th Precinct and members of two social service groups, Vocal New York and Exponents Incorporated, to demonstrate how to administer naloxone, an opioid antagonist that helps some who've overdosed to start breathing again. While opioid overdoses may be as big, or I should say not as big as an issue as in other parts of the borough, that's not to say it's a non-issue. That's according to Senator Rivera. Now, the benefits of Rivera's bill, which currently is in the Senate Health Committee, could be far-reaching beyond preventing overdoses and steering addicts towards treatment. Now, safe injection facilities, Rivera said, could also reduce illnesses like HIV and hepatitis C that stem from sharing needles. Well, Lehman College is on a mission. Its mission to strengthen relations with Mexico, and it's starting with the best way the school knows how, through art. Well, Lehman signed an agreement last January with 8 public Mexican universities in an effort to expand student and faculty exchange programs and research projects throughout the City Universities of New York's Jaime Lucero Mexican Studies Institute, which also happens to be housed right here at Lehman College. Now, the signing ceremony took place at Lehman College Art Gallery, and after not long, well, it was, I should say after not long it was over, some people approached the gallery director, Bartholomew Bland, and said, how about using the gallery space for a future Mexican art exhibit? So when the opportunity arose for the gallery to host Pintado Colors of Education, Bland and his team jumped on it. And after planning the exhibition's 6-week stay at the gallery, Bland has learned a lot about Mexican culture, even planning to visit the country in the fall. He hopes the exhibition motivates visitors to learn as much about the country's culture as they can. In the future, Bland also wants to put together more shows highlighting different cultures from around the world. But for now, he's focused on how Pintado will give visitors a chance to understand the country from a different perspective, especially because of the current political issues, I should say, surrounding Mexico at the moment, with talks of building walls and severely curtained immigration from the South. Well, that takes a look at our Bronx updates. We want you to stay with us. We'll be back with more show coming up right after this.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. Your whole world changes in an instant. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
We're back here on Open. Well, the White House is trying to combat yesterday's heavy action that took Manafort trial. The Manafort trial ended up with the conviction. Manafort on 8 counts. He also faces 10 others that ended up in a mistrial. At the same time, also, you've got the president's attorney, Cohen, pleading guilty to tax evasion as well as fraud. And that brings a lot of questions right now. And so we're going to bring our political analyst, Lee Bynes, in. Lee?
Good to be back.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yes. The president needs to take a break himself, given the fact of all that's going on here. Let's break this down here. The Manafort trial first. Let's go. Okay.
Manafort, he went down as pretty much like everybody expected. The charges against him were fairly clear and very, very difficult to defend against. As you remember last week, his defense team did not put on a defense. They pretty much just left it in the hands of the juries and prayed for the best. The best was that they got a hung jury on 10 of the counts, but he was convicted on 8. It didn't really matter whether or not it was 8 or the full 18. All it took was one to put him behind bars for a substantial amount of time, because I understand that just one of those charges he could be held accountable for 30 years. If the full plethora of charges against him had actually went through and he was convicted of them all, he was facing as much as 240 years in jail. The man is 69 years old. One of the reasons why, this is pure speculation now, but one of the reasons why I think that he decided to go and fight the charges as opposed to pleading out like Michael Cohen did is because I suspect that he's hoping for a pardon, and that's one of the reasons why he's keeping his mouth shut. Now, this man is not out of legal jeopardy whatsoever, not just because of the 10 charges that he didn't get convicted on, but he's got to come to D.C. and face additional charges on failing to let the government know that he was operating as a foreign agent for Ukraine, and as well as another $30-some-odd million that he was trying to get under the table without paying his due taxes on it. So he's going to be facing some serious time in the future, unless, of course, Donald Trump is crazy enough to pardon the man. But these are charges. These are outright criminal charges. And when you sought to add this up, we'll roll right into Michael Cohen, because he didn't even bother to fight his charges. He just went in, raised his hand, took the oath, and just admitted that I'm guilty of these things. Now, the things that he was found that he pleaded to was tax and bank fraud, but he also pleaded guilty to the big one, because this is huge: the campaign finance violations. By doing that, when he actually pled guilty to that, he opened up the president to the fact that yes, the president was aware of the money that was being spent to pay for Karen. I forget her last name, the Playboy model, Daniels, right? And Stormy Daniels.
But let's go here, because the reference that he made was he assisted the candidate.
Right.
And so in assisting the candidate is then that he directly implicates the president. Where do you go from here, given the fact now that the president has been implicated? We know that Michael Cohen is his attorney, and once your attorney goes, what goes from here?
Well, what goes from here is his attorney, Lenny Davis, was on last night, as a matter of fact, and he indicated that Michael Cohen, even though he's already accepted his fate, he still has information to share, and he's more than willing to share it. Cohen was the president's fixer. Cohen was the one who said that I'd take a bullet for the president, but the president was not as loyal to Cohen. When Cohen felt that he was going down, nobody was even offering him any signs that he would be pardoned. He just kind of like went on his own. So he's the last thing you want to get on your bad side is a rat, and an angry rat, and he's going to rat. And so in the next couple of months, after some of the dust clears, they're going to come back to Cohen and see what else that he can provide to the government to get just a little bit closer to the president. The reason why this is a pretty tough issue is because he can, we know that Manafort was in the room with the Russians at the time when they had that meeting, along with Don Jr. and Jared Kushner. The three of them were in that room. Manafort has information, but not only that, Cohen can actually establish the fact that Donald Trump himself knew what was going on.
The question is,
and there's a collusion. There's a collusion, and then of course everything else he's been doing in the meantime will support a very, very strong case for Rob.
The main question that many Americans are asking is, given the fact you've got Manafort, you've got Cohen, and now you've got also Omarosa, which we haven't even spoke about. You've got these three people who are tied to your administration, and all of this going on right now. How is any government going on? Or any governing going on?
It can't be, because here's the deal. Before we could even finish reporting on the fact that Michael Cohen had pleaded out, and before we could finish reporting that Paul Manafort was convicted, we have Duncan Hunter out in California. He's been indicted, him and his wife. They got busted by the government for taking campaign funds to kind of live a lifestyle that they couldn't afford. So they're under investigation. Well, not under investigation. They've been invited. Now, they've been indicted. But that's also on the heels of last week we talked about yesterday with Chris Collins going down when he was busted and indicted for, what is his charge? I forget now. But at any rate, we have the first person that endorsed Donald Trump, which is I can't think of this guy's name for the life of me, but the second person, which is the Duncan Hunter from California.
Right.
Both of them are now facing charges by the federal government. So what does all of this say going forward? There cannot possibly be any governance going on in the White House because they are on defense 100%. And we're looking at a den of thieves. We're looking at a criminal element. We're looking at a criminal enterprise operating right out of the White House. And for the president to go out in the public over the last couple of days and say, oh, well, Manafort is a good guy. And, but he's not. He's a convicted felon. He's a liar, a cheat, and thief, and he's been, well, busted for it. So the president is pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place, and there's not going to be much legislation moving forward on anything else other than him finding a way to keep himself
Play this out for me for November. I mean, we've got midterm elections that are right around the corner, right? And you've got the GOP is taking a definite hit with all of this. But everybody asks the question: how does this translate at the polls? Will we see a strong, resurgence of voters coming out in midterm elections? I mean, we've seen some tight races, but the question is whether or not, because the president has his base and they're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter what he does. How much is that going to still play into November? And is this still going to be something that we're going to be talking about after November that had no effect?
If the heat stays this hot for the next 80 some odd days, that blue wave is going to be a tsunami, simply because of the fact that the only thing that the Democrats have to do right now is focus on what concerns their constituents, and that is health care, the economy, jobs. I know that the president is talking about the economy is hot right now and jobs are, are around for everybody, but those jobs aren't paying very much money. Healthcare is still a major issue, and even if the Democrats just focus on those two issues, along with all of the other items that will depress his base from coming out. A lot of people who are being called on the phone and asking their opinion on things are still hanging with the president, but a lot of those folks, I don't see them being as motivated to come to the polls as the Democrats are. The Democrats are empowered now, and I think that's one of the reasons why Steve Bannon is working the refs on the sidelines, trying to say that we need to save the president, because if we don't save the president, any gains that he made over this short period of time will be lost, because even though the Democrats are trying to back away from talking about things like impeachment, they know that's what's coming. If they take the House.
The question is, why haven't we heard that word from the Democrats? Is this political strategy, or, I mean, we've heard it before.
Well,
they've definitely
because that would
stance.
add fuel to those who are still supporting the president. They'll come out. They'll want to get people to come out and vote on that issue. Look, if we don't save the president, however abhorrent he is and the way he's been running things, the best thing we can do is to save the House and the Senate to make sure that we can keep him protected at least until 2020. And when that happens, he'll be challenged from his own side, as well as I don't know how many people are going to come out against him on the Democratic side. But I can say with a great deal of confidence that Donald Trump won't be around after 2020.
You pretty much.
I would pretty much bet.
We had this before, like a few years ago, he wasn't going to be president.
Well, I wasn't a part of that argument simply because of the fact that I wasn't a part of that argument because I didn't participate in that argument.
Right.
But yeah, he is the president. I think it's a good thing because it was a learning lesson. I think that the United States, most of the citizens have realized that he is not good for the country. Most of the intelligence community is against him right now, based upon him getting rid of Brennan's security clearance. We know the reason why he did that. That was to cover up for the issue regarding Omarosa.
Right.
That he pulled out of his back pocket to get rid of that story. Then Manafort gets convicted, and his attorney pleads out.
We've got a couple seconds left, but
Sure.
I want to ask about these latest findings. How does this affect international relations?
Well, you know what? I think the folks in China, the EU, Canada, Mexico, they pretty much can see the writing on the wall as well with all of these convictions and the amount of pressure that the president is under. They're playing a waiting game. It's the same thing with North Korea. It's the same thing with Russia and the UK and Germany. They've all come to the conclusion that a lot of this stuff is going to be over very, very soon. Like I said, he's got about 18 more months to play these games, and then it'll be over. And one of the reasons why he's going to stick around for a while is because, let's face it, we know now that the Justice Department rules state that he cannot be indicted as a sitting president. So they'll have to wait until he's out of office and then approach him from that standpoint. And that's the only protection that he has right now. That's it. He's done.
All right. Lee Mines, thanks so much. That's why we bring you
Good to be here
next week. All right. Well, we want you to stay with us. We got more show. We'll be right back right after this.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Well, you know what? The school days are approaching. Parents are saying yay, kids are saying nay. But listen, today we're going to tell you about how to get your kids' health checklist ready for class. And joining us now is Dr. Alyssa Franzblau, who's the pediatrician at Montefiore Grand Concourse Practice, and we welcome you.
Hi, thanks for having me. Doing well.
And I really meant that because, you know, parents are like, yay, and the kids are like, nay, right? A lot of stuff going on. But listen, let's talk about getting back to school and some things that really, you know, we should know about. Let me start off with first day anxiety.
Yes.
Okay, kids are going back to school for the very first day.
Yes.
I've heard parents say they've got anxiety, kids have anxiety. How real is it?
First day anxiety is completely real, as any parent will tell you.
Okay.
So children are nervous. They've just had the summer where they've had the time of their lives, not having to wake up early and go to school. And now you're telling them they have to get on a bus with a bunch of other kids and not leave the comfort of their home. So the best thing to do is to prepare your kids. Don't wait until the day before school starts to let them know, hey, tomorrow's the first day of school, or you got to go back eventually. Start getting them back into their routine early. So now's the time. Get them back into the routine. And if they already started school, then 2 weeks before the school starts, you should start getting back into the routine at least.
Parents' biggest challenge sometimes is when their kid goes back to school, sickness, right?
Yes.
And so commingling with kids, more kids, the possibility of being sick. So how do you deal with this, school infections and preparing? Because we hear a lot of that in schools.
Yes. So, back to school time, like you were saying, is really exciting, especially for parents. But it's also the beginning of cold and flu season.
Absolutely.
So the biggest thing that you can think about is teaching your kids effective hand washing. This is the one thing that we know, well, many things, but one of the best things about preventing germs. And we know kids are really good at spreading germs. So effective hand washing is water, soap underwater, at least 20 seconds, sing the happy birthday song if that helps them learn how long to do it. And then teaching them when to wash their hands. After using the bathroom is a must, before touching food, whenever they touch something dirty. Other important things that we want to do for, keeping health in school, make sure their vaccines are up to date, and teaching kids to not spread germs, sneezing in their shoulders, not touching your face all the time.
Right.
That's the best things we can do.
And so give me this. We talked about vaccines for a minute. Parents are considering flu vaccines. A lot of people, yes, no, maybe so.
Absolutely. So, as a pediatrician, absolutely, you got to get your flu vaccine. I'm a big proponent of that. So flu season typically starts October and runs through May, which not a lot of people realize. It keeps going even when it starts
pretty much the whole school year.
It's the whole school year. And
Right.
the average child gets 5 to 6 infections in a year. That's a lot. That's a lot of infections. So the flu vaccine is the one thing that we know helps prevent the flu. And why do we want to prevent the flu? The flu is different than a cold. A cold is kind of gradual, runny nose, cold symptoms. The flu hits you like a truck, right? And it includes those symptoms, but as well headaches, body aches, feeling excessively tired. And for children, they're particularly vulnerable, especially to dehydration, to pneumonia, and some children, healthy children, can also die from the flu. So that's why we really care about preventing flu, doing the things we just talked about preventing germs, but also including flu vaccine in your armory of preventing infections.
So let me have a throwback moment here, because my kid's already out. He's in college, second year. All right, good. But here it is. I remember times when he would come home, and he'd come home sick, right?
Sure.
And of course we know that he's commingling with other kids and this and that. And so the parent in me is frustrated because I'm saying, why are you allowing your child to come to school when they're like this?
Right.
There ought to be some cutoff, if you will, as to when's a good time to bring your kid to school, when's your time to keep them at home or her at home. Let's go over that so that way some parent can know, and I'm helping somebody out here. I am.
So when should you keep your kid home from school? One, if they have fever, they probably shouldn't go to school. And the main reason we keep kids home from school is one, because they're not going to be able to participate very well, and we don't want to get your kids sick, right? We don't want to spread infection. So if they have fever, and fever is a temperature over 100.4, they should stay home, and they should stay home until they don't have fever for at least 24 hours. That's the one big one. The other things are if they have a lot of goopy stuff that you can easily spread. Remember, kids, touching everything.
Right.
We don't want to send them to school where they're going to touch someone else and spread those germs. So if they're having excessive runny nose, if they're having green or yellow stuff coming from their eyes, if they're vomiting or having diarrhea, best to keep them home so they're not spreading any infection to other children. Other reasons to keep them home, if they're excessively tired, they were up the whole night coughing or really sick and they're just not going to really be able to participate in class that day, they should probably stay home. If you're concerned, you should see your pediatrician. If a parent is worried and feels like something isn't right, you should always go see your doctor. But some other rough guidelines of when is this beyond just regular sickness, when should I see my doctor? If they're having cold symptoms for more than a week and it's not getting better, it's not starting to trail off, you should probably go check in with your doctor. If they're not able to eat or drink for a very long, it depends on the age of the child, but let's say 24 hours, less if they're younger. If you notice a difference in how often they're going to the bathroom, how often they're urinating, you should definitely check in with your doctor and make sure everything's okay.
Wow, pretty good. So now let's talk about your pediatrician. How often should a child see a pediatrician, particularly during the school year?
So, at the minimum, we want to see you every year for your annual physical. And that's super important because for us, that's when we check in and make sure that the child is growing well, developing well, and we want to hear all of the great things that are happening in your life. Younger children go to the doctor more frequently, as any parent will tell you. So, you know, depending on their age, they might have more physicals than just one a year. But at the minimum, we should see once a year. Now, if there's something going on and you feel like your doctor might be a helpful, you know, partner in figuring out what's going on, talk to your doctor and set up an office visit to include them in your care of your child. So for example, if they're really struggling in school and you're not sure if there's a medical component to that, check in with us. You know, include us in the conversation because we're your partner. It's our job to help you out.
Give us some advice too for, you know, schools have nurses, right?
Yes.
And so talk about taking advantage of the nurses in school.
Absolutely. So a lot of schools have nurses in school. If your child's not feeling well that day, or let's say they're kind of not feeling well in the morning, you sent them to school anyway, you should tell your child, talk to the nurse if you're really not feeling well. And they can kind of be that first layer to see if they have a fever or if they have any concerning symptoms, and they'll tell you that you need to go see your doctor.
Sometimes they, you know how the kids do. They go see the nurse, and the nurse says go back to class. You know,
they can do that too.
Right. So the nurse has a good job to do. Thank you so much, Dr. Franzba.
Thank you for having me.
We hope that some parents are watching and will take full advantage of this.
Excellent.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Dr. Franzba is our guest here on Open. Listen, stay with us. We're taking a quick break. We got more show coming up. Stay with us. Coming right back, right after this.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown, and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay. Yeah. Hey Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We want to help you get your financial house in order. So joining us now is Jonathan Ortiz, who's the Director of Financial Advisors, with some latest tips on really how to save some money. And really, if you're a student, we want you to pay very close attention because I think you're going to get some well-needed tips here. Jonathan, good to have you.
Thank you, Darren. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's hard to believe. It's almost like when we talk about September, literally 3/4 of the year will have already been gone. And sometimes when we look at our bank accounts, we're like, okay, I'm not where I should be. So that's why we got you here. Help us out.
Absolutely, absolutely. The Bronx is booming. The Bronx is doing better than ever before. We have a lot of new developments. And with that, we have a new set of problems. What is that problem? How do you help those that are coming in? How do you help those that are trying to stay? How are you going to help those who need to get out? And that's where we come in. You know, being a financial counselor, being a financial advisor here in the city of New York, particularly in the Bronx, has bring in a lot of new challenges, particularly for those who are trying to save. Fortunately, we have a lot of new applications. There's a lot of new apps for the new generation, and the old as well. And I refer to the classicals, the classics. So with that being said, I think now that a lot of things are changing, you should be very particular about the new apps that are coming up on your smartphone in particular. Apps such as Acorn, such as Mint. Those are apps that right now are they're part of the fintech world, financial technology world, and they will help you manage your money much better than what you're doing right now. Right now, one of the things that I'm noticing in particular is not that people don't know how to use the apps, but that they're not managing the little bit they have the right way. 90% of my clients are making a decent amount of money. When I say decent, they have enough to pay their rent, their con medicine, and their food, right? The problem is that after that, the little bit that's left over, they don't know how to segment it correctly. They're not segmenting it correctly. Is it because of the lack of discipline? Is it because they don't have enough according to them? At the end of the day, for us, it's all your mentality and how you go to approach this.
You have two kinds of savings. You have long-term savings, you have short-term savings. So walk us through this. If I want to engage in short-term savings, what are some of the things I could do?
Short-term savings, the first thing you would do is set aside, first of all, see if you're working already. A lot of employers offer 401ks if you're in the for-profit world, 403bs if you are in the not-for-profit world. So see if that's one way that you can start saving automatically. Many times you're not going to notice that you're even saving until you see your statement at the end of the year. Another way of saving would be to put away every week at least 10% of your income. How would you do that? Cut away those lunches. A lot of us are spending a lot of money on food. How much money are we spending? Maybe you're spending $5, maybe you're spending $10. What are those things in your breakfast, right? What are those articles that you're spending a lot of money on? A lot of my clients are spending average $500 to $600 a month on eating out a month. And that's here in the Bronx. I'm not talking about Manhattan, I'm not talking about Brooklyn.
Right.
This is happening right here in the Bronx. And I think if we're able to control what we're spending on the little things, we're going to be able to save for the big things later on.
And the big things, they require long-term savings. So walk me through that. How do we engage in long-term savings?
Absolutely, absolutely. Long-term savings, again, part of it started with the 401k, starts with your pension. If you're looking for employment, especially if you're a student right now, look for jobs that have pensions, not just the 401k. A 401k you could always tap into. You shouldn't, but unfortunately many people, especially Latinos and our communities, we always have an emergency.
Right.
Oh, I gotta get this, I gotta get that. So you tap into your 401k. What happens now, you're limiting your retirement funding. And that's something you should really consider not doing. Other than that, look into investment firms. Maybe you need a Roth IRA. Maybe you need an IRA. Maybe you need to start small, very small. Go to your local credit union or bank and open a CD, or open a small savings account, and every week contribute a percentage of your income towards it. Something I do personally is that I have 2 savings accounts. One in my immediate bank and one in a bank I can never touch. It's an online bank that's only accessible if I go through the means. So what I do is that I cut out the ATM card, I throw it out, the money is there, but in order for me to really use that money, I would have to go through a number of things in order for me to use it.
I need to get you in here to talk about students because college season is now, students are going back to school. A lot of temptation. I mean, back when I came up, credit cards are being offered on campus. Of course, we know that law has now been enacted not to allow that to happen for students. But what advice do you give to students right now who are getting ready to get back to school?
If you want to have a great life the second you graduate, do not overborrow. It might be nice to accept the entire financial aid package, but unfortunately, a lot of these financial aid packages have a huge amount of loans. If you accept that entire amount of loan that they give you, if you don't need it, you're just putting yourself in a hole. So here you are, 4 years later, you're supposed to graduate, especially if you go to a CUNY, a city school, you're not supposed to graduate with that much debt. All of a sudden, you're in a lot of debt because you overborrowed. So yeah, you'll be very happy in October when you get that refund check, but you should really consider not taking that extra money that was allocated for your spending. If anything, you should work, do your best to get an internship, a paid internship, some opportunities here and there, so that you don't have to overborrow.
Oh, students. What's the biggest mistake they make? Overborrowing?
They're overborrowing. They're overborrowing by over $12,000, over the 4-year period minimum, and that's just a national average. these are the type of things you should really not do. Do not overborrow. You know what it is that a lot of us, our parents tell us, hey, go to school, go to school, to school. There's a lot of things we need. We need housing, we need, computers, we need this, we need that. We do not need to get ourselves in debt. A computer's not that expensive nowadays. Your cell phones are probably more expensive than a laptop.
Wow, pretty good information there. People want more information, what do they do? How do they get in touch?
Easy, jortisfinance@gmail.com, jortisfinance on Twitter. Simple as that.
All right.
Thank you.
Good to have you, Jonathan.
Thank you, there.
All right, Jonathan Ortiz, our guest here in studio. Taking a quick break. We've got more open coming up right after this.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
And we are back here on Open. A community school in our borough is providing resources to obtain health care and some other wraparound services here to improve the family's quality of life. Now, joining us to tell us a little bit more, we'd like to welcome Ms. Denise Alexander, who's the principal of the Bronx Charter School for Children. And good to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. So, for people who don't know about the Bronx Charter School for Children, talk to us about it.
So we're a school, one of the first independent charter schools in the Bronx. We are going on our 14th year. We are located in the Mott Haven area of the Bronx, which for parents and educational people is known as Community School District number 7. So very great school. We're K through 5 school, kindergarten through 5th grade, approximately 432 students.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So K through 5. Students get wraparound services, I hear?
Yes. So I think one of the things that makes us different from other schools, not just charter schools, though de Blasio had this initiative to increase the number of community schools, is the fact that we stay true to our mission in supporting the community. We are trying to increase what we do for the community. So currently, what we're able to offer our families and students are opportunities to support them with wraparound services, be it health care, mental health care, just basic supplies, because we understand that if the family is not solid and has that foundation, it's going to be really hard for our kids to learn and prosper. And so that's the idea, and we are trying to increase that. We have a dynamic family support team with 2 counselors, a social worker, and so their charge is really to assess what our families' needs are and to figure out a way that we can support our families. We've seen within the past few years an increase in mothers coming to us, sharing their experiences of domestic violence in the household, a lot of families needing support with immigration services, particularly since 2016. And so, and that's what we're about. We're there to support the families, see what they need, and try to figure out how we can get to them.
Walk us through if a family's watching right now saying, listen, you know what, I'm thinking about charter school, because there's a lot of myths that come with charter
Absolutely.
school. So debunk a couple of those
Yes.
for us real quick.
So I would say the number one thing I want to debunk is this idea that charter schools handpick their students, right? Like there's this notion that charter schools can fulfill their mission or they're doing better because they choose students who don't have behavior problems or students who are not students with disabilities, and that is not true. The law in New York says that charter schools have to accept students through a lottery. Now, depending on the charter school's program, they might have a preference of a seat. So for instance, there are schools that deal with trauma. They really want to target that trauma population, and so there are set-aside seats through the lottery for students that fit that criteria. Our school in particular has no set-asides. We accept applications 3 ways. 1 is through the New York Charter School Center. 2, they can walk into our building and submit an application. And the 3rd way is they can go onto our website and submit an application that way. And we run the lottery. It's audited. We have cameras there that are watching us. And so typically we receive over 1,000 applications a year, which is great. It's a true testament to the work that we're doing. Unfortunately, we really have about, I would say, 75 seats. So
1,000 applications.
So you can imagine, yes.
Wow.
And I have to take that back. There's one set-aside preference that we have, and that's for siblings. So if we have a student that's currently enrolled and their sibling enrolls or applies through the lottery, there is a weight given to those students. But most of our families, they come in kindergarten and they remain until 5th grade. But I would not discourage families from applying. If a family finds that they were not selected or they feel like there's some sort of bias going on, they need to complain to the New York Charter School Center, because charter schools are not allowed to do that. We get who we get through a lottery system.
Amazing, amazing. So with the wraparound services, what would you say are the strongest assets that you have as a charter school for people who are in your community?
What brought me to the charter world, particularly in New York, was the idea that we have autonomy, right? So we have autonomy on building our program, and it was very important for me to find a school that matched my philosophical beliefs. I believe that we are responsible for families and community as much as we are for the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. So I would say that for families, you find someone or you find a school that matches what you believe in and what you want for your kids, and you go for that, right? Our school, like I said, really prizes our families and partnerships, and so for us, it is when our parents come into our school, they know what they're going to expect. Our teachers do home visits, so they're in the homes of our families. We're really trying to break down the walls of school being just the school. We come in and out, yeah.
Well, Denise Alexander, thank you so much for coming and sharing
Thank
with
you.
us.
My
And
pleasure.
More information about the Bronx Charter School for Children at the bottom of the screen. You saw it, so make sure you get in touch with her and the school. Taking a quick break. We got more show. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back in a few.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant! Behold, the angry giant! It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
If you want to stay in the know about the latest happenings en español, check out Diálogo Abierto, BronxNet's own Spanish show, Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 67. The latest in news, arts, culture, politics, and what's going on in your neighborhood. Diálogo Abierto, the best way to stay connected in Spanish. See you there. Te esperamos.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister. My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Well, certainly want to thank you for staying with us. I want to tell you about an artist who uses recyclable and disposable material to create art with an environmental message. Daniel Lanzalota is here now to tell us a little bit more, and good to have you.
Nice to have you.
Hey, thanks. So
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about this here.
Well, I collect ocean debris and roadway debris, and I take trash walks about 4 or 5 times a week, either in Brooklyn, Manhattan, or Connecticut, wherever I am. And I collect debris to create artwork. And the artwork is a mechanism I use as an environmentalist to talk about the issues of plastics in oceans, waterways. I did a Bronx cleanup in the Bronx River a couple of years ago. That was one of the most challenging with the Bronx River Alliance, because that kind of plastic is sitting impacted on the banks, and that becomes very toxic. It starts to putrefy, and that's very difficult to use because it starts to break down, and there's all kinds of issues with that. But ocean debris is very clean, and a lot of this is ocean debris. The hat is just a mixed bag of all kinds of debris. The brooch, which I'm wearing here, another brooch, that's a plastic cap from a product. And then there's a Trader Joe's hand cream thing. So I use art to have a dialogue. And as an environmentalist, I don't want to come around and say, Daren, you know, you're a bad guy because you use plastic. I want to have a conversation with you, and you'll come up to me and go, what's that? And I'll say, it's art. And then we'll have a discussion about what's happening in the environment with plastic. Particularly in the Bronx, where there's a lot of environmental issues, and one of the highest rates of asthma is in the Bronx, and that's due to many reasons. There's a thing called environmental racism, and that's one of the issues here. There's also traffic patterns and how trucks move through the Bronx, and carbon debris that comes out of cars, causing all kinds of havoc for people and health.
So walk me through a little bit of what I have here on this table, because I want our viewers to get an opportunity to see some of the work that you've done.
Thank you. So I started an airing line just recently, and that's been kind of interesting what's happened there. A website, an environmental website in Singapore, excuse me, saw that I was doing this stuff, and they asked me if they could take one of my articles and put it on their website, and then they asked me if I wanted to be in their online store on the other side of the world. And I said, absolutely. So that's there. I haven't made any sales yet, but it's been interesting that some people on the other side of the world are seeing what's happening. And my pieces are going into my first museum show. I'm having a solo show up in Bridgeport, Connecticut at the Discovery Museum, and that opens on September 14th, which is a very interesting thing because, excuse me, Bridgeport and the Bronx have a lot in common. And what's interesting about the Bronx is that it's a coastal community. We forget.
Right.
We're on Long Island Sound, and we have Orchard Beach and other places, City Island. So we should be very cognizant of the conditions of our water quality, and how we approach and use the environment in a safe way. Because what happens is that toxicants that are in the environment are very democratic. They don't really care who you are. And so when people and the administration at large and how they treat the EPA and what's happening with the government now, it's really quite interesting that it affects everybody, and the environment doesn't care who you are.
When I look at this, I ask the question, how long does it take you to make one of these?
It depends. The hat took quite a long time. I was thinking about the hat for a long time. That was recently, something similar to that has just been purchased by someone. The earrings sort of sell on their own. I haven't sold any brooches yet. This one is supposed to be gone, but we're in negotiation with that one. Okay. So it could take either 5, 6, 7 hours, and the hat took a very long time. The small pieces can take about 4 hours.
Amazing. So for people who want to get in your artwork or get in touch, what do they do?
Instagram, my name, Daniel Lanzillotta, on Instagram or Facebook.
So real quickly, got just about a minute left. What would you want people to know about the environment and art?
I would say that that we need to be making better choices, particularly here in the Bronx. There are a lot of stores that are packed with plastics, and single-stream use plastics are really being it's detrimental to the environment. Straws, of course, is the big issue right now with marine life. But one of the worst things that are in the environment are disposable lighters because of the nature of the materials, and so the butane is a petrocarbon, and that's really, really bad once they start to break up into the environment and go into our waterways.
All right. Well, Daniel
to pay closer attention to your purchases.
Daniel Lanzillotta is our guest here, and we want to tell you, you got the information at the bottom of the screen how you can connect with him, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All righty. Listen, we've come to the end of our show today, and of course, we want to thank our guests for joining us, and yeah, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, please catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum's Channel 67, Verizon Fios 33, or anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. For all of us here on the set of Open, I'm Daren Jaime. Say take care and God bless. We'll see you soon.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad